Okay, we are live. Jose Maria Tiñana, my friend. How are you, man?
Good man, and you? How are you doing?
Good, good. So we worked together what 10 years ago, 5 years ago. I don't remember when. I left you as a technical program manager or something, and now you are big shot executive or whatever you are. Tell me what happened.
Was technical product manager, you remember, in
Yeah.
Expedia, where we were doing the architecture for that famous streaming project. And yeah, man, we changed companies from here to here, end up in Sofia Genetics, which is where I am now, as a head of architecture and cybersecurity, and getting my hands more and more into cyber in the last couple of years.
Okay. So cyber as in protection. I'm quite ignorant in this. Okay, I have to admit. I try to learn something coming for this recording, but it's very uh, away from my comfort zone. So, do you help architecture systems to be more protective, or you go after hackers? What do you do?
So cybersecurity is two parts. You have corporate security and application security.
Okay.
So corporate security will be anything referring to laptops, people, and how to prevent people working in a company to do something wrong. And application security is when your company is developing a product that is in the internet, how to ensure that that product doesn't get attacked or doesn't get hacked or any kind of cybersecurity incident on it. So it's kind of like two branches, sometimes very related, sometimes totally disconnected, depending on what are you working on. And cybersecurity concretely now is the term that has been used for InfoSec, is really, really more oriented to technical parts. So all the physical security and these things are usually taken up by other department. So if you're developing a new application that's a SaaS platform, internet, that customers need to go there and do any kind of operation, you really want to ensure that this application cannot be hacked, first of all. Obviously, that if it gets hacked, that you know that you have been hacked. That's another thing. Sometimes you don't realize. And third, to ensure that all the data is protected, which is very critical lately because most of the issues that companies are having is that they find out they have been hacked, but the data has been already leaked in the internet. And obviously that ruins a company or
It's
other
not good.
businesses.
It's not good when you see
It's
PR
not
or
good.
articles saying such and such company, 20 million accounts and things like that. So
Exactly.
so you do the latter. You do the application security.
Application security and corporate security, both.
Cool. Okay, let's start with application security. In which part of the software development cycle do you kick in? It's just during the architecture draft, or you review the code, you have something that runs continuously and checks the VPNs, the traffic.
So
What do you do?
that's why I think it's very interesting to talk about why architecture and cyber should become one. Because before
Yeah.
you will have your typical engineers deciding how to do the architecture for the application. They will put something in kind of like pre-production or almost POC, and then people from cybersecurity take a look, they figure out some issues, and then everything comes back. When you have all
Yeah.
that merged into the same department, everything goes naturally to the same process. You start designing something, and you already have somebody who is thinking you need to be sure that is part of the design. And you hear everywhere that, yes, security by design, but effectively it's not happening because you have multiple departments involved in multiple steps. So that's why in the application security concretely needs to be embedded in the architectural design of the application at the very first step. When you are really just doing in a whiteboard your drawing of how you want the data flow or the different pieces, you need to be really thinking about security. Otherwise, it's too much the impact, and most of the times you do just patches and workarounds.
And this is what you have done in this company that you are working now.
Yep, exactly. We're
Okay.
really pushing for cybersecurity, and we have seen that it works, and it's much better. Yeah,
Can we say the name of the company, or maybe not?
yeah, the company is Sophia Genetics, is
Okay.
where I work,
Sounds very
and
cool. The name sounds very cool.
yes,
And
it's
advanced.
a public company that works in the genomic space. So obviously the security for our company
It's
is a key
tremendous.
part,
Yeah.
and really we are putting a lot of effort on it.
So guide me through what happened. So you joined this company, and then you say, hey, you know what? I want to join. I want to change the way you guys do security. And How did it happen?
At, I joined as head of architecture.
Okay.
So initially, cyber was not on my part, but at that point, the person on InfoSec, we built a very good relationship, and we started working together very, very closely. And the more we worked together, the more we see that it was making a lot of sense to work more and more closely. So at some point, that person pursued another position in another company. So then I proposed to do the merge because it was already kind of like working like this. And then the executives thought that it was a good idea, and they were.
Okay, you make it sound very easy, which it might have been, but usually in corporations, especially big ones, you come and you want to change something which is core to the company. You get some friction, right? You get some. What do you want to do? You want to change the way that we have been doing things for 20 years or 5 or whatever. So, I mean, really, did you? I don't know much you can say about that, but was it hard? Did you get friction? Did you get pushback? Did you get weird looks? Who is this new guy that wants to change things? I mean, what's
To be honest, and it's not to please anybody, it was pretty easy
okay?
because it became obvious at some point because it wasn't something that happened from one day to another. The collaboration between both teams started to be closer and closer, like sitting together in the office, talking together the whole time. And then at some point when that proposal was made, it kind of like felt like natural. Everybody know each other. So it's not like suddenly, it's not like in a corporation, you come from outside and suddenly you say, let's merge these two departments without
Yeah.
any context. Everybody will, of course, they will be like, what are you doing? Here it was much more smooth. And actually, obviously, we give it a time to see how it works.
Yeah.
And it has proved that it works very well. And things that engineers are much more aware of security. People on security are much more aware of what engineers are doing. So in general, everybody feels that there's actually less friction and everything goes more naturally than before, where it was like a gateway. You finish here now. InfoSec comes. It's much more fluid now.
So, did you actually merge the departments, or you still have two separate teams? How did it happen? What was your initial proposal? What did you start doing? What did you actually start change at the beginning? And then I guess it evolved a little bit, along during the time.
The idea was to merge the departments. So still have obviously dotted lines to other people, other executives. But the departments are effectively merged and it's one team and they work together. So if we need to share workloads or whatever, everybody can take tasks from somebody else.
So now the difference, how is the workflow? So you have the software architects, I guess, or led by you that come up while they come up with the architecture. They involve the security people. They talk. They are in the same meetings.
We have a process that anybody who wants to do any change or any new project needs to pass through the architecture that was implemented before the merge. So now what we have just done is when that happens, I involve people from my team and they're both architects and security architects. So this is why I'm telling you it feels more natural because there is nothing that has changed. It's just that in the same meeting there's one more person there listening to everything and giving opinions, and it feels very, very normal.
That sounds cool, man. Sounds cool. Good
Well,
job. So,
yeah.
is that when you started thinking about this, right? And then you actually you did it. You implemented the change. You merged the teams and started working. What happened at that you didn't expect, or something you needed to change along the way?
It was a bit more of the mentality of people about security because you cannot, let's say, fix everything. So you need to be more risk oriented, and people. But it's the same with engineers. They love to test stuff, they love to play with tools, but we need to be more oriented to the reality. So what is the specific risk that we have in the market today, and where we can be really attacked, and focus on those, which sometimes is not very cool, because who likes to?
So when you say you cannot fix everything, you mean there are a huge amount of risks or types of attacks, and you cannot fix them all or prevent them all. You need to choose.
For example,
you need to invest your time.
Exactly. You need to put where your or invest your time of your engineers where it's worth it, and subcontract or mitigate the others. For example, DOS attack. We are not going to build a farm that can support the DOS attack. So what we did is that we just took a commercial product that is already preventing those kind of attacks. We just buy it and then we pay the license and it's done. On the other hand, if you want to ensure that the authentication authorization of an endpoint is properly closed and everything, that's something that the engineers have to do, the security engineers and the engineering team, and then we give them guidelines of how to do it. So it depends. You can, with the size of a company that is Sophia Genetics, you cannot invest 100 engineers on fixing everything. It's much sufficient to really target to what is public. We close all that part, and then the things that are not exposed or is more internal, then we prioritize it to do it later.
Sounds cool. So did you ever caught a hacker or a group of hackers trying to get in, or any good
Every
story you
day,
can share? Every day? Really?
every day. You have this is one of the trends that we are seeing in the last years, and I remember this from Expedia. When we have something exposed to internet in Expedia, if you remember, it was kind of okay. And we're talking about 10 years ago, eh? It's not a long time. It was 2016 we were in Expedia. You remember the price we were doing. Everything was in internet because Expedia is a public web page, so basically it's there. And if you remember, we don't have that many issues. Now, a single thing that is exposed to internet, you start to receiving bots who are clearly scanning everything to try to find something.
Oh boy.
So it has really radically changed, and actually there are a lot of analysis from many companies that they are saying that more and more of this is automated and it's getting more
Yeah.
sophisticated. So as soon as something is exposed to internet, if you don't cover it, they're gonna start hitting it.
So I mean, do you know where these motherfuckers live, or the bots are? Can we go get them? Can we go on vacation
No,
in some, I don't know,
we
is
don't.
that Russia, North Korea, those kind of places, or even also Europe?
It's mainly from these countries, but at least it's the IP from where it's
The IP.
originated. But sometimes you get them from other places in Europe or in US, and it's just that they're bouncing around the world. So we don't really spend time on chasing that. We just close it and that's it.
Oh, it would be so nice. Sometimes I receive one of those emails that, oh, your package is is late or whatever. Come, come, and oh, I have to tell you this about an attack. It's not very sophisticated, but so COVID, okay, first year, second year, I don't remember. I went getting, was going getting the shots for me and my daughter, my older daughter, and there was a boy before us that collapsed on the floor. He was, sweating. He was very nervous about the shot. Yeah, he already got the shot, and my daughter also got sick. She got a shot. They sit you in chairs 2 meters apart. She was in front of me, 2 meters ahead, and she said something to me. I leaned over and she said, "I can't see." I I blacked out. Anyway, she was just, she just panicked. But it was very, emotional. So we spent like 10, 20 minutes with the doctor. They gave her something, and she didn't, she did not drink that day because she was very scared of the shot. Anyway, we went out, and I received an email saying that the package was ready. A package from, and I was ordering a lot of stuff back then, right? Because with COVID, you couldn't go out. And I remember I ordered 2 books for my daughters, gifts. And so I clicked, get this package, click. And they charged me €2 per click, like 3 times, €7, €8, something like that, right? And I said, oh boy, if I knew something about security or hacking or something, I get your appeal. I trace you back, come knock at your door. Anyway, I'm glad that you are spending time on this,
Now,
and you changed the. So you actually didn't have any successful attack. I don't know if you could be able to say that during your tenure there.
no,
No data
if
leak.
if we have a successful attack, we need to report it because
Okay.
it's by law. So fortunately, no. But as I'm telling you, every day we see scans from weird places that we get notified or we see with the SOC. So we prevent it. but we will not chase anybody, as you're saying, because that will be impossible. It's really something that companies need to invest more, because it's becoming a thing. And when you were mentioning about phishing, that's not application security, it will be on the
Yeah.
corporate side. But of course, we also have a lot of tools for that and filtering email. We still do a lot of awareness, because in the end, you can filter everything. There is always something that goes through the cracks because it's very well done.
It
And
is very well
lately,
done. And with the
yeah,
numbers, statistically, if they push you a lot, they will find those 3 minutes where you are under some shock, something happened. Like me, my daughter was in danger. I was out of my mind, right? And click, boom. And then what do you do?
exactly.
You go to the police for 2.5 euros.
You have some insurances on those things, personal ones. Some banks have it, but it depends on the amount. If it's, I can say,
Yeah,
5 euros, why
5
even
euros.
bother? No, they play with the numbers, because if they flood the internet with millions of emails that now are getting actually better with some generative AI, for that it's actually something that is useful, unfortunately, because before the emails were full of typos, the language was not properly written, it was weird. Now are getting more and more, let's say, natural. They really look like a real email. So you need to be more and more careful. And from time to time, one will pass through. And then if it's in your corporate environment, probably it's easier to detect. If it's in your personal email, no, not at all. Sometimes,
That stuff. So, how many people do you manage now? Do you manage both teams? They are under
yeah.
you? Wow.
Yes, it's 12 people in total.
And how long ago did this merge happen?
It was 8 months ago.
Okay, so enough time to give you a good promotion, or you still need to need to bake? Come on, man, give us a promotion. I want to. Okay, we will come back here, 6 months, 12 months from now, and talk
Let,
with an executive. So let
let's
me
do that.
summarize this. You found the problem, you took responsibility, and you said, I want to fix this, even though it was apparently, allegedly outside your scope of influence or domain of, ownership. You address the problem and you fix the problem, right?
Well, fix. This is not a problem that you fix and you forget about it,
You
because you
fix
need
the
to,
process. You
but
saw
you
a
can
process
fix.
which was not really broken, it was suboptimal, right? It was suboptimal because it would go back and forth between two different teams. It was for sure slower. It was for sure more prone to error, to mistakes, to misunderstandings, right? Now you brought it together and you improved it.
That, exactly. The point is that this is not something that is unusual. In every single company that is enough big, you will have a cybersecurity department totally separated from engineering, totally separated from architecture. There will be three different silos. Sometimes they can get on with better or worse, depending on the personal relationships, but there are three different ones. And more, we're seeing that it doesn't make any sense anymore.
Yeah.
Like it does. You cannot have this. What you're saying is inefficient. So companies are spending a lot of money on this, and sometimes the things overlap. A cloud architect. So obviously, I have not met that. But if a cloud architect designs an application without thinking about security, for me, it's not a cloud architect. It's doing something else. And the same, you cannot design.
Guilty as charged.
We were doing POCs, but that was a POC. It's always the same. POC becomes production, right?
Yeah, I usually do POC because I am more like research, R&D. But so you are changing the industry. The industry. You are changing the industry. You could be changing the industry. We need to spread the word, right? We should, hopefully millions of people will see this podcast and will start changing. So, what do you call someone that sees a problem, takes ownership, goes there and fix it or improve it, and that's it? How do you call it?
Responsible person. That's
I call
it.
it a man. You are a man. You are my man. A male man. Okay. Bye bye, woke people. See you next time. So I'm proud of you, man, and I think that you should get a little bit more credit, and you should. I think you should share your experience in a little bit more structured way with I mean, did you write something about this blog, something, something with numbers, with, I don't know, times?
No, to be honest, I've
You
been too
should do
busy.
that. Yeah, well, yeah, I guess you need a PR team. Do you have a sense? Maybe you could measure the number of meetings, the latency of features of medium or big projects from start to end. Can you get those numbers and see how much did you gain?
We could get some KPIs, mainly on projects, as you mentioned, of how, let's say, security features we fix or we implement. But also, and I think the most important is the frustration on people is less. Because imagine that you're an
Yeah.
engineer, and you're an engineer, you design an application, you go through all the cycle. We also work in a health industry, which is extremely regulated. So you cannot
Yeah.
just develop and forget about it. You need to have a lot of documentation. And then when you are close to the end, InfoSec team comes and tells you, you need to change all this because it's not going to work. Or you have this problem with data regulation. The frustration for the engineer is really high because they probably need to go back and change a lot of things that they weren't thinking about it. So doing it from the beginning is more efficient. They feel part of the process. You just give them some advice. You need to implement it by yourself, and it's much better. So I think it's both an important thing because in the end, engineers, we work with them the whole time. They really like to do the things in their own way, but sometimes they don't think about the possibilities. Nobody can think about that. So architecture can guide you from, remember we're implementing these Kafka streaming things. We have experience on these things. We can tell you this is going to work, or by the experience this is not going to work. And then if you add the security into that, you can tell them, look, with Kafka topics, we can encrypt things, so we cannot encrypt that this is going to be slow. Or where are you going to store the keys? All these things that sometimes you might not think about it that become very, very critical when you want to scale.
But you're saving time, right? You talk about frustration because probably it's the thing most apparent to you. But you are saving time and money if you start
Of
talking
course.
about security at the beginning, while even you are choosing or you are considering a technology stack, right? Kafka or something else. Imagine that you choose a message broker that does not do encryption, right? Because it's fast, because it's cheap, because it's, I don't know, easy to install and maintain. And then at the end, the security guys come and say, oh, no, it needs to be encrypted. I mean, it would be a very bad mistake on the architecture part, but still, it can happen. So,
Exactly, but let's stop on that example 1 second. Imagine that you're an architect of a company and you have a new project coming. In my previous company where I was working, we had a similar case. They wanted that we define a full architecture, event-oriented, so everything was event-driven architecture, and we were going to be in Azure. And we have the same discussion that you mentioned. Do you want to go with this messaging system, but how are you going to handle security? And in the end, we went with Kafka because we define the schema security, so we implement Avro, so the schemas cannot be modified, you ensure that nobody can inject anything, everything is signed, etc., etc. But if at the beginning we don't have to think about that, you are not doing a good architecture job.
yeah.
But it's part of security. This is not, it's everything is mixed. So it's a very good example because then if you have not think about that, they will be like, what kind of architect are you? Or you're going to have a discussion, because security is not my point. This is up to you guys.
That's
It
bad.
doesn't make sense, right?
You cannot
So
say that.
it's exactly that.
I mean, you can say that, but it's not something nice to say. Yeah, we had something similar experience, but I think it was maybe bad communication with the client. We set up a data pipeline for a financial institution in Azure, and essentially they store all this data in SQL servers. They have hundreds of clients, and each client has hundreds of tables, in SQL servers. And so we have these pipelines that boom, boom, they copy all the data. And then when we were almost ready to deploy to production, they said, oh, but you cannot have access to all columns in all tables. So we will give you a set of columns for each table that you can and should copy. And actually, we set up the policies in SQL Server so you can only see those columns. And this list can vary in time. So you imagine that, every time you do when you set up this pipeline, you need to see, you need to go look at the column. I mean, it was not a big overall, but it took another couple of weeks to do. But yeah, I mean,
So yeah,
we didn't know the client. When you have a small company on the other side, they don't have a PM to track everything. So it was not our fault. It was not their fault. But anyway, so you're happy with this process. With this process, anything you want to change or not?
we keep improving things, of course. So I mean, more and more, what I tell you, I think the most important is the awareness.
Yeah.
At the beginning, people were perceiving security as pain, and as more attacks you see and more we communicate to, because that's also a part of the problem. Sometimes because you have different departments, all these attacks that maybe be common, I'm pretty sure that every company who's nowadays in the market is having the same experience. They see millions of pings on the endpoints. If you don't say anything, nobody knows. Unless you are the administrator of the firewall and the WAF and everything, nobody knows. So we're working a lot on sharing this so people realize that this is a reality and the phishing numbers. So we're trying to do a lot of effort on that with a lot of support actually from the team members. So they are also aware more and more that security is really, really important, because we also have in the health industry, there was a case of a company recently who was hacked and also disappeared. So it's happening in all the markets, but when you're talking about patient data, it's even more critical.
It is. So I want to say two things, but first, you are, you remember when we were at Expedia and there were all these, oh, you want to become senior? Okay, you need to do, good features. You need to be, you need to have an impact in your team. You need to want to be principal. Then you have to impact into the other teams. More or less a company. Oh, you want to be a distinguished engineer. And I remember at VP level, you need to quickly solve performance problems for people. You need to inspire. You need to bring, peace. You need to be, dude, you are doing that. You said, people usually see security guys with security as a pain, and you went there with your smile, with your, easy going attitude, and you brought peace, and everybody agreed to your plan. You went in, easily like a breeze. People are happy. You are delivering value. That's good, man. That is a good talent for an executive. Do you understand that? I mean, do you see that?
Well,
Don't be humble for once. Do not be humble.
The most important thing is that people need to realize that it's a team, and I think that the people appreciate that. So what I mean, I have in the team 3 application security specialists. I'm not telling them what to do, they are telling us what to do. Then my job is more to translate that for the PPs and obviously prioritize things, and we discuss sometimes based on knowledge of other things. And that's something that you probably remember perfectly in Expedia and in other companies, that is very difficult to find a VP. When you tell them what they have to do, they usually don't take it very nicely.
Yeah.
Because of course the egos plays before anything else.
I mean, it's human, right? It's human.
But I think that slowly, when you start to put that message also to the top, because it's true that cyber and architecture is obviously very technical. So depending on the executive you are talking, you need to really simplify things. So the recommendation I will tell to anybody who is listening is to always use the money and the value as the excuse. Look, if you do this in this way, it's going to cost you this amount of money if something happens. And that immediately clicks. Yeah. And an example, why we need to spend this amount of money on a firewall to do this? If you have a security breach, the company stops. The conversation stops there. It's pretty clear, Then they will ask you, what is the risk on this? And then you show a statistic. You can show a lot of data from different organizations around the world who are doing all these studies. Obviously, you don't need to do it by yourself. But it's data that is there. It's in internet. It's not a secret. You just Google it and you will find it.
Let me not push back, but clarify on a couple of angles on what you just said. The first angle is that yes, they trust your numbers, but also because they trust you. You have, authority, not authority. In Latin, there are two words to express our authority, like imperium and auctoritas. Imperium means I'm your boss, do this, period. Shut up. Auctoritas means even if you are just a dev or someone, if you know deeply a field or a problem or an area, and you are a good person, people trust you. And I guess that is what you brought, right? They
Well,
trust you. But I also want to say that you talked about money. What I try to do with younger engineers or with engineers, that I try to explain them what they know about products, about the product, right? Why are we doing this feature instead of that very cool feature? We are doing this feature because enterprises are willing to pay for our crappy software only if they can, authorization and encryption, end to end. I know that are not terribly interesting features to develop, but I also try to point out, to bring them at the product or business level. We need this because we need to close a deal with that company and they want this feature. Sometimes it's that easy.
yeah,
But
exactly. Well, I was referring that, for example, we also, as InfoSec,
yeah,
we need to deal with a lot of customers when they have questions about security, because the space where we are in health is genomics. US customers and European customers are really, really strong on data. And we see the feedback from customers when they ask you what you were saying. For having this deal, you need to have this level of security on the data or ABC. Then it's also a tool that you bring back and you say, look, guys, this is something that you need to implement if you want to sell more or you have less problems. So on that, the people are very receptive when you do it in that way.
yeah,
And in the end, what you said, the trust comes after a few iterations. They see that what you were suggesting 1 year ago is actually being asked by everybody. So everything goes in the same circle. So at some point, people relax and trust you more. But first, you need to come with obviously with the data. That
yeah,
this is
yeah.
what people are asking for.
Yes, you need to, and it takes time, to get prepared and to study. But you also bring to the game. Yeah, let me bring up something politically incorrect, or no, I'm joking. But you're a happy person. You always smile. This attitude in our field, I think it's important, right? Because we tend to be, I want to say, a bit nerdy. Focus, coding. It's
Yeah.
engineering is not always a nice area or part of companies, right? Because there are a lot of men, masculinity, aggressiveness. I want a promotion more than you, more money than you. It's at the end we all work in the same workplace. If we try to not be nice to each other, if we try to leave our problems, our ego at the door, and smile, I don't know if partly probably it's character. A part is also cultural, right? Your country, my country, usually people are more smiling, or can we say that?
It's sort of cultural, as you said. In my current company in Sophia Genetics, we have a lot of different people from around the world, but as do in many other companies I was before. Before Expedia, I was in another company here in Switzerland, in Lausanne, and we call it the United Nations, because in a team with 20 people, I think we had like 17 nationalities. It was really
Wow.
extreme. We had people from all over the world. And yeah, of course, we have a lot of different personalities. So, but at the same time, what you say, if you have a manager who is very serious, very dry, very
It does not
not
help.
aggressive,
It
it does
does.
not help.
I mean,
Yes.
maybe he's a good person, a good manager, and always reliable with good data and everything, right? Takes good decisions. But lighting the environment, with smiles, with jokes, with taking it easy, the more I get, the older I get, I think the more important it is. And yeah, I have
And
fond
we,
memories of our time at Expedia, even though it was maybe not very long. And yeah,
yeah, we had a good team there, right?
yeah. I mean, I was put in this team very abruptly and very unexpectedly. But and also it was the first time for me to do analytics at that scale, which was huge, man. It was a huge scale. I mean, it was not like Google or Facebook scale, but it was just below that.
Exactly. I mean, when I'm telling people experiences that we had in Expedia, so I can see that some of them look at you like thinking you are exaggerating because that's not true. And it's like, no, Redshift, the service in AWS, we reached the limits.
Yeah,
You remember?
we reached the limit in everything. I mean, it's like
Then we changed it to Aurora, and we also reached the limit. I mean, we were reaching the limit of every single service that we were trying. That was very cool. But yeah,
it was a lot of data. And then we had a data a data loop, right? So you have services in production, they gather data that is sent to analytics. You do your compute. I mean, let's not talk the details. Don't say details, but and then the results they went back to production after I don't know, half an hour or so every hour or so, and that would affect a number of things in production. And that back in 2016, don't know, 17, it was pretty cool. It was pretty cool at that scale.
It was really
at
cool.
That scale. I mean, before joining you, I was in Bellevue with the lodging search engine, Atlantis and Lisp. And boy, we had, before going to the cloud, 1,200 physical servers in Phoenix, I guess, which were running a C++ pricing engine, boom, 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 with 64 gigabytes of memory, and it was cool, man. It was. So the prices were in SQL servers. We have 41, 42 SQL servers, huge machines, and every 10 minutes, I don't know, we take the data. So before we would put the data in NetApp, which is essentially a bigger drive with a lot of Ethernet ports, and then we would put that to. And we change that. So we take those tables, we change the object model to something like, hotel, all the data in one object instead of tables. And we show the data inside the servers, inside the memory of the C++ process, ready to be read. It was old-fashioned. It was barely working because it was a lot of data. I don't know, man. 5-6 billion products every 5 minutes. Boy,
with the analytics project, I remember that we had 1,000 messages per second coming for the pricing of the hotels. If you remember, 1,000 per second. It was interesting one, yes.
I think that 1,000 was maybe the average or even the low. I remember bigger numbers. 10,000, 20, maybe it was the peak. I remember that if he went down for a few minutes or for half an hour, then we had to put some back pressure into Kafka because it would give you 1 million messages per second.
Yeah, it was great.
Yeah.
So, but that experience has been very cool. But also, now thinking back about security, oh man, the things that we have done different.
Well, yeah.
Let's not talk about that. Maybe it's not appropriate, but yes.
I mean, it was 10 years ago, right? It was, but yeah. I think that, and we were among the first to do this kind of things, right? I remember Lambdas when they came out. I would try them like 2-3 months after they came out, and the logging was broken, and they were not always functioning.
I remember with the Redshift that you were in a case because we were doing a query on I don't know how many petabytes of data on a column and it wasn't working the index. I mean, I remember that you were working with, I think it was Amresh on that and somebody from Amazon helping you and they found a bug and they had to fix it. So
Yeah, we were among the first in using Lambdas at scale, using Redshift at scale, and I mean now probably we would do things different. Well, even then, we briefly used Redshift and then we did use Spark for something else because Spark is, I don't know, probably cheaper, right? Because it's Redshift is amazing, but it's not, if you use it at that scale. I remember, I think I already said this in this podcast. the product managers, the you remember the people in your floor, they were doing some queries. They were building models, and when they change the model, they need to run the model for the past 3 years and see what kind of data they
Yes.
generate. So they
Yes,
were using Hadoop.
reprocessing.
Yeah, they were doing Hadoop. Yeah, reprocessing, and then it would take an hour or two, and they say, "Can you make it faster?" Yeah, sure. So I took the data, cleaned it up a bit, put it on Redshift, I don't know, 16 servers clusters, something like that, and then I think it was Dana. Can run a query, and she ran a query, and it took like 10 seconds, right? And she said, I want it. So I give them this cluster, and then the end of the month came, and the bill came, $40,000. I said,
It was
why?
more. It was like I remember the call from what was the name of the boss? The
John?
guy,
John
the
Ostland?
guy, the VP of engineering in Seattle,
Well,
Jordan.
oh, Jordan.
Jordan.
No, Jordan was not VP. Jordan was senior director. VP was John
Or
Ostland
senior.
at the beginning, and then
Or
anyway,
he was calling because what happened? It was like, well, it was the reprocessing. They wanted to have the data quick.
you
I
want
remember.
faster?
I
You
perfectly
want
remember.
faster? Did you give me a budget? So you ask an
I
engineer to make something faster without giving him a budget, and then honestly, 40K for a company that was making back then, I don't know, let's say 9, 10 billions, and lodging was 7 billions of that. It didn't seem much to me. Anyway, then I think
yes.
we changed to use Spark, right? Because Spark is, a cluster smaller, and you run it once. I don't know. I don't remember how often we run it, but yeah. So
Uh,
technology is powerful, but yeah, these cloud tools, at least they give you the opportunity to do POCs, right? Experiments like this. You imagine back in the day. Probably you are too young, but in the 90s or in the early 2000s, you need a
until
big
then,
yeah. If you need a big database, what do you use? I mean, you need to choose first Oracle, SQL Server, DB2, Teradata, and then it's a decision that you make at the VP level, right? Because you need to spend millions. And then they come with all these big servers, and after 6 months, you start running experiments. And if you didn't make the right choice, you are fucked, right? Now you go to the
it,
cloud. Let's try
yeah.
Redshift for analytics. Let's try that. Let's try, I don't know, MongoDB. And in 5 minutes, you can try something. ClickHouse. Do you use ClickHouse?
No, no, we don't use that. But I remember. But what you're saying, I remember in the year 2000, in the first company that I worked was called Esri, to have a
Oh,
DB2
Esri. You work
installed.
for Esri?
I worked for Esri, yes, for a
Oh
year and a half.
boy. Did work for Cesium a couple of years ago, which is a kind of competitor.
Oh, but that was 26 years ago,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, yeah. Oh boy. Oh, you look much younger. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you. Esri.
So it was a DB2 install of an Solaris, which at that time you will not understand what it means because it was like, okay, another name. Because when you're saying
Yeah.
access to that technology, it was impossible. You cannot test it. Nowadays, you want to test something, Solaris is already dead, but you want to test something in a different environment, you just create a VM, you test it, I like it, and then, or I discard
Yeah.
it. Things have changed dramatically.
They have changed a lot. What I tell to younger engineers is, yes, you can experiment with a lot of stuff. You can learn a new language, right? You download a compiler or something. You can do, or even online, you can learn a language. You can play with whatever you want. What you cannot play with is a cluster of 400, Spark servers, a cluster of 32 Redshift big machines, because you need money. You need money, and you and I and another, a set of people, which is quite big, right? We have that kind of experience. We know what it means to play with tens, hundreds of thousands of servers in different scenarios, cloud premises, and that's something which is, that's a skill, that's some kind of experience that you don't, I don't think they can do at school or find in a
But
book.
on my team, I also handle the FinOps, so it's the financial operations. And we have also a lot of awareness about how much it costs. It has been also a similar effort. to try to make people understand how much they're spending. And cloud providers, some of them are better than others on giving you tools to really know how much you're spending or to even do forecasting. But when you put the numbers in front of them, it's like, oh, so I have spent $1,000 just because I did this stupid thing with VS Code. Yes, because you didn't disable the logs, and every time that you were logging something, it was costing money.
Yeah.
It's a and it's true that if you work in a very big enterprise and you don't have that monitoring of somebody on top of you telling you, like over Expedia, you don't even think
Yeah.
about it.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, for that project that I was telling you about the small financial institution in US, they asked me financial forecast for Azure resources, and yeah, they have all these online calculator where you put all the numbers, but and then for a lot of analytics they have like compute units. How do I know compute units? I didn't have the real data because we've never seen real data because it's financial. I can estimate, and then you estimate. So I took the numbers, I multiplied by 2, but I still think I might have been off by a factor of 2. I don't know yet. They didn't come back to me, so maybe I'm still safe. But it's very difficult to estimate
Yeah.
costs, at least for me. I mean, do you find it easy or reliable to estimate costs beforehand while doing the architecture?
It depends on the architecture, actually, a lot. If you have an architecture that is totally auto-scaling, it's really difficult. So usually what we do is that we take, as you say, worst case scenario. We just set up there. We already have experience in other clusters, so it's actually now we're very good on that. But if I will have to do the same in another company in a few years, it will be like, well, to be honest, the only way to do this is, or depending also on the cloud provider again, it's huge difference. Don't get me started on that. But
Next time.
yes, next time, because it's another podcast just on how the cloud providers give you financial information. It's incredible.
Yeah, it seems almost they're trying to hide or to the play. These
Yeah,
are not the
right?
numbers you're looking for. Don't look there. Using their Jedi powers to
It's
distract
interesting.
you.
Every time there is a mistake in the documentation, it's always on their favor, or because they forgot to document something. It's very interesting. But anyway, what I mean is that if you have an architecture that is new and it's the first time you're doing it, it's very difficult because there are so many variables. So, or you are really, really an expert on the technology that you're going to use, so you know all the real details, or those real details are 50% of the cost. One example is just about the storage and network cost. It's so difficult because the storage you're always thinking, you're going to store 10 gigabytes. So I put in the calculator 10 gigabytes in the blob GRS. Okay, this is the amount. Then you need to think if you are going to keep it in hot the whole time or you're going to put it in cold. If you're going to keep it in cold, how many reads are going to use per second? We don't know. It becomes like a mass that you have no idea how to estimate. And then how many transfer you're going to through the network because you can monitor the network. What you say? So it's not easy, and obviously it's a business. But as you said, that's maybe for another podcast. But there are
I
many
would love
companies
to do that. I would love to do a podcast for executives. This is how my podcast started. Financial navigating financial troubles with hyperscalers, right? Because probably smaller ones. But I've got a solution. Back to on-prem. Back to on-prem. No, I'm
many
joking. I mean,
companies
for
are
something,
doing more and more of that.
yeah, we are also seeing that. And for something, it makes sense, right? For even, and also some middle ground, right? When you go to smaller providers that gives you physical machines, so you have 100 physical servers over there for some kind of activities, but yeah, this is also probably another.
And depending on the size of the company, if you're a company of 500 employees, you're not gonna dedicate 20 to maintain a server farm in your company. That's too much.
Yeah.
But if you have 50,000, for you to have 200 employees to have all the development environments on-prem, so they are flat cost.
Yeah.
It doesn't sound so stupid, yeah? And you keep production on the cloud, that is easier to handle. But I think more and more companies are moving into that agreement, let's say.
Yeah. Your that
But
approach.
linking it with cyber, there is where the cloud also is totally different. Because the cloud, when you deploy it in cloud, obviously you have advantages and disadvantages.
Yeah.
And disadvantages is that it's, again, it's in a provider, so any account that get hacked, it means that you gain access to critical infrastructure unless you really segregate the architecture very well. So on that, obviously, you always want to have different accounts with different roles, with
Yeah.
PIN. There are tools for it, so if you follow the guidelines since the beginning, is good. But coming back to what you said at the beginning, a company who is starting that goes to the cloud, set up everything as administrator, and they get a security incident.
Been there, done that.
Yes, end game.
But you know what I do? I do prototypes sometimes quickly, create that, and then that's can we do that? And then in a week or two I set up a prototype. It works. It's all yours, and they don't change it, right? Because it works, right? Well, I should not say
I
that.
was attacking you, man, but it's fine.
I felt attacked because it's true. Because yeah, I mean, at times I share. Now fortunately, just do architecture and I just do consult, helping, talking with companies, executives, helping making deals. So yeah, a lot of talking, not much coding,
But
not
then,
much architecture.
then also bring the security on the talks, and you will see how the conversation changes.
Come join me in the next talk. Okay, so what's your next challenge now?
Next challenge.
Next
Oh
challenge.
boy. Oh boy.
Oh boy.
You know that I started to say that since
You
we
did?
worked together, right? Oh, of course.
Pay royalties,
Oh
man.
boy.
You should pay royalties.
I think it's more American than yours.
But oh boy, it's like the O, like it's down, right? Low tone, because I want to, with my weird Italian accent. So you don't have a big challenge for the next, for 2025?
So this year is more about really enhancing more the security posture. Let's say we went to a, let's say, good state where we're kind of happy with the security, but you're never happy with security. You always want more, right?
Yeah.
So now is to really cut the corners were like cut to get to there to fill them in. So small details. I mean, obviously, I can share that. But let's say to fill up the roadmap with things that are still improve the productivity, so people don't get trapped. Because the problem with cyber is that if you want to get super secure, you have to close access to everything.
Yeah.
And we don't want that employees are losing productivity or they cannot access the tools because they have to open a ticket or this URL is cut. So it's try to find a balance. That's the challenge for 2025 and just still keep improving the security.
Excellent. Okay. Wow, this has been great. I think that we have 2 future appointments. Okay. Number 1, talk about financial troubles, accounting, reporting with hyperscalers.
Yep.
Just not to name names. And second, we'll meet with you in a few months and check with your promotion.
Yes.
Okay. If it doesn't happen, you tell me who is your boss, and we'll have a talk.
Happy to invite him to the podcast. It will be so fun.
It will be so fun. Yes. So yeah, get prepared, and we will record soon and go live.
Sure. And if you want to sum up the podcast with a phrase, I would say that any executives who are listening, architecture and cybersecurity should be merged, and one of both will disappear sooner or later. You will see.
They should be merged because they treat the same object, which is the architecture and the security of the company on the product. They involve different people with different skills that in most companies are in different teams, but they should be in the same team, in the same meetings early on to talk about architecture so that they don't make mistakes that reverberate and cascade through all the architecture and the code, and then they're very difficult to
and they could do a very easy test if they want. If it's a big company and they want to test it, take one of the initial design meetings where the architects are there, put somebody who's an expert in security, and then if during the review for the security after that usually happens months after that, there's no inputs, you have proven that one of the steps is not working.
So you save time, you save frustration, you save money by saving time, and you diminish the risk of re-architecturing, the risk of failures, of the protecting the system, etc. So
of course, time to market, because many people will be like, oh, we cut corners and we go live, and then when you go live 6 months with a security problem in one of the APIs because it's not properly cut, and I can assure you that you will have IPs from different countries scanning you immediately, because it's really fast. I mean, it's incredible what we're seeing. As soon as something is exposed to internet, it gets scanned immediately, and they will find it. And if you have a version that is old, or you have not do anything, they automatically put exploits, and they will enter. So it's not a joke.
Excellent. And if executives that are watching and listening want to know more, Jose is available for $250 an hour. I will take my share as an intermediate, just a little share, piece of the action. And send emails to me, to him, or to whoever. Man, good job, man. I mean, it's been 5-6 years, but you did great. It's good to see you.
It was good to see you too, man. When are you planning to come by Switzerland?
Oh boy, I was just not far away. The last weekend we were in Milan, but I travel to Seattle actually once or twice a year. But to Switzerland, maybe, who knows? Things are always in motion. I will come ring your bell.
We will do the same if I pass by Seattle.
Oh, or Rome.
Or Rome. Good man.
Good man. Good to see you. Very nice
Very
talk.
good to see you. Thank you.
Looking forward to our next episode.
See you soon.
Bye.
Cheers. Ciao.